Self-publishing is changing. No more gatekeepers. No more barriers. No one standing between you and your readers. This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Hello and welcome back. It is another episode of the Self-Publishing Show with me, James Blatch. 2 in a row. I said it wouldn't be every week. It won't be every week, but we've got a couple of things to talk about, and we've got a guest today because today I am going to reveal our schedule, our speaker's schedule. Do you say schedule? Do you say schedule? I think schedule's American and schedule's British, but I think I'm losing the battle on that one. Everyone says schedule over here now. I heard every BA pilot I've flown. BA Jet says we're on schedule today, and I feel like pointing out from row 13A that it's schedule. Anyway, I'm going to reveal the schedule for the Self-Publishing Show Live 2024, which is taking place on June the 25th and 26th in London. If you haven't got your ticket already, you should come along and meet some author friends and find out what's happening in the industry. Find some writing partners and listen to some of the leaders of our community and what they've got to say. And I'll tell you who they are in a moment. Thank you very much for your messages after last week's comeback show. Very kind of you indeed. I've got lots of messages and it does keep me going. So I appreciate that very much indeed. I know a lot of you have asked about Fuse Books and what happened to that, because we've talked about Fuse quite a lot over the last couple of years, and I think many of you knew that there was a deal in the offing because we had a press conference in 20 Books of Vegas where we announced an investment. Well, all of that has gone through. It is now Vinci Books. So we changed the name, so it's Vinci Books, and we have new people on board. So I am now looking after the digital side of the publishing company. But the people sitting around the table with me are people with decades of experience in traditional publishing who are busy doing deals with all the retailers and distributors in Britain and the United States in particular to distribute your print version of the book. So I think we've got quite I would say a unique offering here in that we are, I think we're one of the, in terms of advertising your book and getting digital sales, we proved that with author after author, we can do that. But also having the opportunity to have your book distributed in print. See it at an airport, at a railway station, in WH Smith or in Barnes and Noble. It must be an exciting prospect. So that's what's happening. It's a much bigger company now. I'm focused on my little bit, which is mainly digital advertising, and I am thinking a lot about workflows that are changing at the moment. So it's kind of my remit. If you haven't thrown your hat into the ring and you want to, if you for whatever reason you just don't really like the marketing side of things, or you're not very good at the marketing side of things, which is equally fine, you can find the submissions at vinci-books.com. So Vinci as in Leonardo da Vinci, vinci-books.com, and you can throw your hat into the ring there. Actually, at the moment, we are going out to authors. So some of you will have had some rejections, unfortunately, and quite a lot of you will have had an invite to a chat as well to see if it's going to be a good fit for Vinci Books and for you going forward. Okay, so that is Vinci Books. Let me bring you the speaker schedule then for London. So the London conference taking place at the Queen Elizabeth Hall, which is part of the South Bank Centre, which is kind of the arts centre for London. It's this concrete area that was built in the 50s and 60s. It's iconic. The buildings are all listed now. You've got the British, you've got the main National Film Theatre and the National Theatre there, as well as all these various little venues. The Royal Festival Hall, which is actually quite a big venue, and the Queen Elizabeth Hall, which I think we can get about 816 in there, and we had 770 last year, plus we need some space and buffer, so it was probably about where we topped out at, and we're looking like we're going to do roughly the same this year. So if you haven't got your ticket, you can go to learnselfpublishing.com/SPS live, and the early bird is going to run for the rest of this month, and then the price goes up in April. So if you want to snag your ticket, now is the time to do it. And who are you going to see when you get there? Now, this is March and the conference is in June, so there are still a few things to move around, and the actual session times will not necessarily be exactly as they are at this stage, but I'll give you an idea of what we're thinking at this stage. And we've got most of the speakers inked in. We're just waiting for a few confirmations here and there. So we're going to open probably about 9:15 on day one, on the 25th of June, which is a Tuesday, with Steve Higgs. And he's going to inject some adrenaline into us. So Steve is a prolific writer. He's a powerhouse writer. He's somebody who gets up in the morning and knows that if he's going to be successful tomorrow, it would have been because of something he did today. And so that's going to be the message from him, to wake us up, shake the cobwebs away, and let us get on with the rest of the conference with a bit of motivation in our step. After Steve, we are going to have a session from Adam Strange. Now, Adam Strange could easily sit in Vinci Books. He's somebody with a long and distinguished track record in traditional publishing, but he's worked with authors and writers. So we've often said this, traditional or indie, the writing process is the same. I mean, what makes a good story makes a good story. And Adam is going to talk about that. He's going to talk about marrying the creative with the commercial, which is a rather posh way of saying writing to market. From a traditional point of view, he's sat in a lot of these editorial meetings where they discuss whether they're going to pick up a book or not, and why they are and why they're not. And they are the same sorts of discussions that we can have with ourselves about whether we're going to write to a particular market, or whether this book is going to be successful or not, or have a chance of big success. And if the market's not there, clearly that depletes that chance. Doesn't mean that you're not going to write the book. It might be the book that you want to write, but having that conversation with yourself and doing that research. And there'll be another session in this conference that'll help you make that decision as well, is an important part of the process. That's Adam Strange. He's from Kevin Anderson Associates now, who are sort of a pot of editors, a lot of them straight out of the big five traditional publishers. There'll be networking breaks regularly throughout the day, so we know that's such an important part of these conferences. Perhaps the most important part of the conference actually is who you talk to and the friends you make in the corridors and in the lobby. After the break, we are going to hear from Carlin Robertson, who's going to be talking about BookBub. So Carlin's worked for BookBub for a few years now. We're good to see Carlin back in the UK. It's been a few years since BookBub have been at the conference, but they are going to be talking specifically about BookBub ads and how you can make them work for you. I think they're a bit of an undiscovered ads platform, BookBub ads, and getting them right and having the right time to market your book, i.e. when you're discounting it, is the best thing for BookBub ads. But there's some tricks of the trade to help them work, and then we're going to hear that from Carlin. I'm then going to do a session, and I came away from 20 Books Seville thinking I really need to talk about AI from a sort of top level point of view, which is not to instruct on how to create images or how to get a scene edited using AI. There's a bit of that in this conference, but I need to talk about the ethics of it. I need to talk about where we are as an industry, what our attitude is to it, and what you need to be thinking about in terms of making a decision about using AI in your own work. So that session is going to be called AI, Fear, Loathing and Acceptance, as you may have noticed was the title of my podcast last week. So I think it's quite a good title, and I'm going to stick with that for this conference. So after that, Ricardo Fayette, him of Readsy.com, is going to talk about Amazon ads. Well, specifically, he's going to talk about the new course that he is currently writing and producing for us for Learn Self-Publishing on Amazon ads. So it'll be our third iteration of this course. It'll be our third iteration of the Amazon ads course. It's a complex area, Amazon ads. It's more complex than Facebook ads, and getting it right is so important. So many people's sales are driven by Amazon ads rather than Facebook ads. Funnily enough, I've noticed in the last 6 months my own book sales are doing better on Amazon ads than they are on Facebook ads. I've actually shut my Amazon ads off in the last 10 days as an experiment to just try and scale my Amazon ads, but getting that right is difficult. So Ricardo's going to talk about that. I'm also going to give you a quick update on a couple of other courses. So we have a new translations course, which is going to come out very shortly. It's going to come out next month. It's been done by Bella Andre. It's I'd say reasonably high level. You need 3 or 4 books, I think, to make this course work for you, but it's about getting translations right, and she's got it wrong, and then she's got it right, which is all included in this course, but a real step-by-step of what process you need to go through to maximize your income on translation. So all of that will be included in a brief session, only about 15 minutes, where we'll just talk, update on the courses and give Ricardo an opportunity to talk about his specialist area, which is Amazon ads. Of course, he has his book, which if you're watching on YouTube, I know it's back to front, but that is Amazon ads for authors. I'll flip that. Actually, it won't be back to front by the time this is finished. Okay, we then have a session, our first session of the weekend on audiobooks. Now, why have we got 3 sessions on audiobooks? Because the audiobook market is changing in the world at the moment, and that's really been precipitated by 2 things. One is it's the fastest growing take up for readers, listeners of any of our media, and so it's something that's really got everyone's attention. And secondly, Spotify have entered the market. Spotify have entered the chat, and they have not exactly thrown a grenade in, but they have certainly highlighted the fact that there is a grab for listeners and a grab for authors going on at the moment. So we are going to have a focus on audiobooks throughout this conference, and the first session is going to be just before lunch on day 1. It's going to be from Craig Thompson from WF Howes, so that's Tantor and other big names in audiobooks, and he's going to be talking about cracking the audiobook code, the secret sources. They see it from commissioning and signing authors and selling audiobooks to the bits and pieces that we need to know that are the markers of successful audiobooks and the less successful ones. Okay, there'll be a break for lunch, and then after lunch we are going to have another brief session. This is with Melissa Addy from the Alliance, from Ally, the Alliance of Independent Authors, and this is going to be the results of the author survey. It'll be a really interesting session. So do come back from lunch quickly on time for that. The headlines from that survey already show that indie authors are earning more than traditional authors now, and this is a really important milestone for us. Maybe we'll start getting the recognition we so richly deserve, but a good session from Melissa there. And then our next session before the afternoon break is one of the highlights of day 1, Hooking 1 Million Readers. And that will be E.L. James and Lucy Score. So I'll be chatting to E.L. James, Erica James, and Lucy Score. I can't wait for this session. I'm so looking forward to it. We're going to talk about craft. We've got 2 of the biggest selling authors on the planet in romance. And it would be, I think, wrong to talk about marketing because their marketing looks a little bit different from us. I do talk to Lucy's other half, Tim, who does a lot of their marketing. They've almost run out of targets on Facebook now. It just looks very different from the sort of marketing that you and I do. But in terms of writing a book that hooked readers, Things We Never Got Over, 50 Shades of Grey, and all the sequels on both sides, these are 2 women who have cracked that code of how to get readers to turn the page and become addicted to your books. And so that's what we're going to focus on in that session. I say hooking 1 million readers. I mean, they've sold more than several. I mean, I think 50 Shades alone sold something like 40 million copies, didn't it? I mean, I can't remember the last time I looked it up, but I know it was the fastest selling print book in the UK at that time. So absolutely sensational, phenomenal success. And Lucy not far behind with her series, which went absolutely bonkers in the last 18 months or so. So excited for their success. We'll celebrate the success, but we'll try and learn from them as well about that relationship with readers and how to get them to turn the page. And then we can all write books that will hook 1 million readers, which will be exciting, right? After the break in the afternoon, we have 2 more sessions, and the first one's likely to be Lee Jarrett, who is from Audible, ACX Audible, and he is going to be talking, I can't really say what he's going to be talking about. I've had a conversation with him. There's a little bit of, we're not sure what the timetable is on some release of some information, but it's going to be a very interesting session for authors. I can promise you that. But again, focusing on Audible audio books again. And then the final session on day 1 is going to be about editing, and it's going to be Chris Banks, probably from ProWritingAid. Now, we had a session in our very first conference back in 2020 from ProWritingAid. And obviously, when we're putting this schedule together, we have sponsors, but the sessions and who's on stage is strictly editorial. We think, well, is this going to be of benefit and value? And ProWritingAid is a product, and I know there's always a bit of negativity around people who just promote their products on stage. But Hayley put together a presentation which we loved, and for me, it was one of the highlights of that first conference on editing. The real strip down the basic principles of effective copy editing of your book. So repetition and adverbs and verbs and stuff that we constantly need reminding about. We all fall into these bad habits. We start with these bad habits, we iron them out, we fall back into them. So it's a really always timely to have this. But Chris Banks, now there'll be an added dimension to this session because Chris is the guy who wrote the code for ProWritingAid in the first place. He worked on machine learning before most of us knew what machine learning was, and I remember talking to him on this podcast, 6, maybe 5 years ago, something like that, and he talked about artificial intelligence, AI, about that being able to work out what you're writing and to make more intelligent suggestions when you were doing your copy editing phase. And of course now AI is here, that's being integrated, and although cleverly he's doing 2 streams of ProWritingAid, if you really don't want that level of suggestion, you don't have to have the AI version, you can have the machine learning version that exists from before. So that's how it is at the moment. So he's going to talk about AI, how we can use it, how best to use it in our editing, but also he's going to go over some of those basics about editing in that session. That'll be the final session of day 1, and you're about to hear from him because I have a chat with him. It's only about 20-25 minutes, so it's not a long chat, but we go through some of those things I just talked about, and in particular what's happening with PWA in this new modern AI world. So that's the end of day 1. In the evening we have a party. We are going to have music in the evening. We're going to have dancing. We're going to have a bit of drink if you drink, and the lobby at the South Bank Centre is a great venue for a party. And hopefully it'll be a nice warm evening. The sun will be shining and we'll be able to stand outside as well. So that's always a highlight of that first day, is to be able to have a long chat, a couple of drinks, relax, make some friends in the evening. And who knows, I might even do some singing again, if you remember last year's. Day 2 is going to start with another Amazon session. So Amazon are going to bring together their authors. We haven't had that confirmed yet, so that is still open at the moment. We'll let you know which authors are going to be there as soon as we know on that one. After that, Alex Newson's here. So I mentioned earlier about writing to market, the session that Adam Strange is going to do. Well, Alex is the person who can tell you what's hot and what's not, because he is the data scraping guy. He is part of Vinci Books, I should say, as well. We use his powers of knowing what's working, what series are flying, and which series particularly have good reviews, lots of readers, but don't have good rankings, which is useful for us to know. But for you, it's just knowing which genres are dying, which genres are on the up, and where you should be writing if you're minded to write very commercially into that area. So that would be a hot topics, hot genres session with Alex. After that, before the break on the second day, we are going to hear from Written Word Media. They're our partners on Hello Books, so they run Free Booksy, Bargain Booksy. These are Red Feather Romance. These are staples of our cyclical promotional calendars for our books, and that'll be effective use of promos. Yet to know exactly who's going to be speaking for WWM, but we will confirm that shortly. And after the break on day 2, we have our final session on audiobooks, and this is going to be a panel where we bring together the biggest and the brightest people in the industry. So on the panel will be WF House, Podium Audio, huge players, Findaway, which is Spotify. We'll have someone from Spotify. We met them in London last week, and they are keen to be here, to be represented, to tell us firsthand what it is they're doing in the market. And also on that panel is Rachel McLean, and Rachel's going to represent authors who are doing it independently, as that is definitely an option with audiobooks. It's one I'm exploring myself at the moment. I've just taken them out of exclusive with ACX, so I am thinking about uploading them when I get to that point on my to-do list to BookFunnel, and trying to push them out and sell them a bit cheaper than we've been able to on Audible. So we'll have a good discussion now. I think Ricardo is going to chair that discussion for us as well. Right, last session before lunch on day 2 is going to be from Stuart Grant. It's called Unlocking the Potential of Your Author Website. So author websites, your own little bit of real estate, is probably more important today than it was 5 years ago. 'Cause 5 years ago, I don't think we thought that the landscape would shift as much as it has shifted. And with things happening at Amazon and things happening at the other retailers, having your own space, potentially to sell your own books directly, which is a huge growth area, is really important. But getting it right and doing it easily, because it's something you can overcomplicate, and Stuart is brilliant at saying this is how you do this in a straightforward way, and have an author website that's ready, modular, so you can drop in these plugins, they call them, don't they? Drop in these plugins when Shopify come along, etc. All the rest of it. So a really useful takeaway session with Stuart just before lunch. After lunch, we're going to hear from Dan Wood from Draft to Digital. Going to give you more information about that session a little bit closer to the time. And after that session, we're going to focus on direct selling. So direct selling is another big growth area. Perhaps along with audio, it's one of the topics at the moment. AI, audio, direct selling are the three triumvirate of topics that everybody's talking about at these conferences. So Damon Courtney is perfectly placed to talk about direct selling. So he is the founder of BookFunnel, which hosts your books so you can sell them there. You can give them away for free there. It hosts your audiobooks now as a beta program so you can sell them direct, and it matches into Shopify. So you can set all this up an automated system, so you have your own shop selling your own stuff. A very important growth area for authors at the moment. And then our final session, I've called it Dealing with Change. I'm talking to Craig at the moment specifically about how this session's going to go, but this is going to be with Craig Martell, who's a stalwart of our community and our industry. And Craig is going to talk about the unsettled nature that we're going through at the moment, with things changing rapidly around us. So dealing with change, and that will be a kind of theme, I think, that will run through all the sessions this year. So that's it. I think it's a really good program. I'm very excited about it. So excited about having E.L. James and Lucy Score together on the stage. I think that would be a highlight for me, because I'm fascinated with people who have such huge success and how they cope with that, and the fallout from that, and how they can repeat it, imposter syndrome, and all those things. And you will find, because I know Lucy very well, she's a good friend of mine, and you will find, talking to Erica and Lucy, the same misgivings about themselves that you and I have about writing, which is always liberating, I think, to hear. Right. So that is the schedule. If you haven't got your tickets yet, hopefully now you will think about getting your tickets, and you go to learnselfpublishing.com/SPS live and snag your tickets before they go. But we are going to put the price up in April. So get your early bird price now. Right, I told you we have an interview on this podcast. It is with Chris Banks. He is the founder of ProWritingAid. One thing I didn't mention there is that Chris has his second child due in June. So it's possible that we will see Hayley Milliman again if the baby comes a little bit early. But hopefully we'll see Chris, and hopefully the birth will all go well as well. But here is Chris Banks, and I'll be back for a quick chat at the end.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Okay, Chris Banks, welcome back to the Self-Publishing Show. It's been a while. Do you know, we've got a lot to talk about, because the last time I spoke to you, you were talking about machine learning and AI, and that all seemed like a long way off at the time. It's not a long way off anymore, is it? And suddenly, the sort of thing that I think was always part of your vision is suddenly accessible to everyone now. So I'm guessing ProWritingAid has got an interesting future. But before we go down that, why don't you start with a bit about what PWA is and a little bit about yourself, Chris?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, James, and thanks for having me. So ProWritingAid, for those that don't know, is a tool that I created to help myself. I was writing a book and I wanted to edit it, and I discovered that was a really hard thing to do. So I used my background in data analysis and coding to create a tool that took all of the advice that I could find in books on how to edit and how to improve my writing, and actually show me how to apply that to my own writing, because I was really struggling to take that kind of abstract knowledge in these sentences, examples that weren't my writing, and remember to do it. And I think for me that was the most difficult thing, was I was keep making the same mistakes over and over again. So in my head, I had this vision of a tool that would just kind of sit on my shoulder and tap me and go, Chris, you've made that same mistake again. Here's how to fix it. But that was really actually the missing piece. Was for a lot of things we could show you how to fix it, but for many things it was impossible at the time. And that for me has been the most exciting thing that's been enabled by the technology changes in the last year and a half. And why I think for me now this is the most exciting time since I started ProWritingAid 10 years ago now.
So I'm certain it's the case, and we'll come on to that in a moment. So for people using ProWritingAid, what does it look and feel like? I mean, how's the process work? Are you using it as you're writing, or is it something you do afterwards?
Well, I think everyone has their own approach to editing, right? And I think a lot of people say don't edit, right? It slows you down. Writing is this sort of flow process. You should just concentrate on getting all of your words down. That's like your raw materials, right? The sand and the bricks and the cement that you need to then build your castle of writing. And that editing bit is where you do that castle building. I know a lot of writers who kind of mix it, and they'll write one day and then they'll edit something the first thing the next day and then do some more writing. Personally, I just need to kind of write and not get bogged down with that. But you can really do it either way. And then we really focus on integrating to exactly where you are writing so that you don't have to copy and paste into a website. So we have integrations that integrate to Microsoft Office, Google Docs, Scrivener, Atticus, Dabble, Noveler, wherever you want to be writing. We provide something that I guess extends it and then adds all of this editing functionality into it. And so then you can edit as you're writing, or you can edit at the end.
And I know the principles. I mean, Hayley Milliman, who works with you, did a brilliant session at our first live conference in London back in 2020, which I rewatch occasionally because it's a really good breakdown of good writing and the editing approach. But the system will pick up things like repetition, like use of the same word, quite a lot sort of thing that we all do when we're writing. It also sometimes suggests not just, we're used to this from some, even Word, I think, does a little bit of grammar, will tell you that sentence might be the wrong way around. But I seem to remember Hayley talking about my experience with ProWritingAid. It'll sometimes say that adjective is unnecessary, or it's a not very exciting word. So it's already, even those years ago, like 5 years ago, gone a step beyond just telling you the grammar's wrong in that sentence.
Yeah, I think exactly. Like when you're writing as a creative writer, there's so many more things to think about in terms of engaging your reader, right? And I always think it's not just about getting your words down on the page, but it's about getting your words into your reader's head. And how can you mesh your ideas from your head best with their neural paths? And so you need to create something that's really immersive. And so that's using strong verbs instead of a weak adverb plus a weak verb. It's using, it's showing emotions rather than telling, right? So you don't write like he was angry. You show his like clenched fists and his face going red, because that creates a much more immersive setting for your reader, right? You don't say, the cart entered into the forest, right? That doesn't give you any of the setting details, right? You need to talk about the smell of it and the touch and the sounds as the cart enters into the forest. And these are all things that ProWritingAid helps you with, that enrichment of your first draft, taking it to something that will be immersive for your reader so they can really put themselves in the shoes of your protagonist as he's going or she's going through the journey of the novel.
And so we'll come on to AI again. I do promise in a minute we're going to talk about the future and the changes that are going to happen. But the product itself always seemed to me to lend itself in the way that you founded it for novelists, for writers, effectively. Fiction writers seems to be the main wheelhouse for it. But actually, I think it's been picked up by all sorts of people, isn't it? The business people writing propositions, and you must have quite a broad customer base.
Yeah, so fundamentally, I created it for myself to help me with fiction writing. But before that, I was a business writer, and there's a lot of crossover, right? People talk about storytelling in business writing, and it's becoming more and more popular, this whole concept of telling stories. As fiction writers, that's our job, that's like our bread and butter. But it's really a lot of the same concepts now are gaining a lot more traction in the business writing world. So we do pick up people who are writing for business, writing for academia as well. But really, our core focus is on fiction writers.
Yeah, and we had a brief catch up in Seville, didn't we? Sevilla recently. Should say I forgot to double check, but you live in Spain, don't you? In Mallorca? Are you in Mallorca now?
Yeah, I live in Mallorca. I think we must have been in Seville the only time it
rained solidly for 2 days. We got a bit of sunshine on the Sunday when we had a look around the city. But I remember you saying then that you do think that the focus of it should be novelists, you think, in the future for the product.
Definitely, because there's just so much value that we can add there. And fundamentally, I am a writer, and it's my passion. So I want to work on something that I'm passionate about.
Is this something you do your own? You say you have a coding background. Do you do your own coding on this, Chris, or is this something you outsource now?
I created the first version myself, but now we have a team of coders and obviously all of the supporting functions as well.
Right. And okay, let's talk about AI then. So it's a controversial subject, and some people might already be throwing things at the screen on this, and other people are embracing it. And a lot of us are somewhere in the middle, not really sure how we're going to adapt to it, or what we're going to change about our writing. But what do you think are the changes that are coming down the line, partly in PWA, but also in general for us as writers?
Well, I think there's no part of the process it won't touch. But I think it will be different bits for different people, and you can take it or leave it. I think editing for me is where it can deliver the most value, because it can really either A, save you a lot of time in your traditional editing process, or B, take the same time and get you to a much higher quality piece of writing at the end. So if you really want to focus on quality, then it will get you to a higher level of quality, because it will just give you so much more inspiration. I think I view AI's role as like a creative companion. I think people talk about like you won't be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by somebody who is using AI, because it just is there. It never runs out of ideas. A lot of those ideas will be bad ideas, but as the curator, right, you can really take those ideas and add that human touch to them at the end. And obviously, I think for humans, it takes a long time to come up with ideas. You have to go into it's like an intensive kind of ideation phase, whereas with AI, you can use it to generate those ideas a lot faster and get rid of all of the bad ones and keep the good ones. I think there was a quote by Linus Pauling, who's the first or the only person to get like 2 Nobel Prizes. He said the way to get like great ideas is to have lots of ideas and throw away the bad ones. And I feel like AI really enables that.
Sounds like the old quote about the best way to make a small fortune is to start with the large one. But yeah.
Oh yeah. Like the easiest way to become a millionaire is to be a billionaire and then lose.
Yeah, and we had sessions. Obviously, I say Seville was 20 Books conference. We had sessions on this subject, and I started playing around with it really for the first time, seriously writing. I mean, I'm on and off writing at the moment anyway. But I think you're right in terms of the value is probably in the editing. I mean, clearly the generative AI right from the get-go is a controversial area. It's probably never going to be for me. I would imagine most people listening to this podcast wouldn't want that because they enjoy the writing process as the essence of who we are and what we do. But giving AI a scene you've written and looking at what it suggests about it, what it does about it, I found that a really stimulating process. Is that the sort of thing that will be built into ProWritingAid in the future?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's that, like, writing can be very lonely. And actually, I think AI has this ability to be a partner for you in that process, to like throw ideas against and see what sticks, and ask if it's, I often find myself asking ChatGPT, is this a good idea? Tell me why it's a bad idea. And I'm really surprised by the results. And I think for a lot of people that will be really game changing. But again, it helps with different things for different people. Like for me, I have this thing called aphantasia, which means I don't have like an inner eye. So if somebody said to me, like, picture an apple in your head, close your eyes, is it green or red? I don't see an apple. I just have this concept of an apple in my head. But that means that I struggle to kind of picture scenes in my head when I'm writing them. But you can use generative AI, you can put in your description of the scene so far, it will create an image, like a photo for you, and that can really help me to then enrich the scene, because then I can actually see what it could look like. And obviously I'll take parts of that and then use that to enrich my setting detail.
Gosh, yeah, really useful for you. So how will the AI impact on the product? I mean, first of all, is it a threat to ProWritingAid? Because can we go off and just do the sort of thing PWA used to deliver in other AIs?
I think it's a bit like spreadsheets, right? Like, I think Excel is a really useful tool for, you can do so many different things in it, but actually it's really difficult to do a lot of things. And so it's spun out lots of other products that you could do fundamentally in Excel. But if you have a much better user interface, then it's a more genuinely enjoyable experience. Similarly with ChatGPT, you can do a lot of things in there, but you have to learn all of the prompts. You have to kind of copy and paste your text around. It can take a lot of time, and it can be really frustrating. And you just don't think of things. I'm learning new prompts and all of the time. And so what we want to do is make that easy for people. So bring it, again, into where you're writing, make it really easy so that at the click of a button you can do the things that you want to do. And so for instance, like a scene generation, right? You should just be able to select a piece of text and click a button and it will generate an image based on that scene description, and you can see it. Yes, you could do that with ChatGPT, but you'd have to kind of take the text, you'd have to then write in a prompt, like turn this into a scene description. Right. Then you'd have to get that, and you'd get the image, and then you'd have to write it. So it's just about making it much more convenient for people.
What so that generative level of service is already in PWA.
So the scene setting thing isn't, but we have integrated a bunch of generative AI features already. So for instance, we do all kinds of different transformations, making things more convenient for people. So for instance, you can change the tense from like a present tense to the past tense really easily, something people play around a lot with when they're writing. We can do things like add sensory detail to scenes for you, so that you can get ideas, and nothing we're not looking for things that you're going to use verbatim, right? We're looking again to kind of stimulate your imagination, to spark ideas in your head. And in fact, we even call the feature in ProWritingAid Sparks, because that's how we view it, right? It's like there to spark ideas, to get you to something that is better, faster, by acting as like a kind of your own creative agency, really.
And is it OpenAI that's behind that? So you use that, or do you use a different one?
So we currently use OpenAI. Obviously, there's lots of models out there, and there's things moving very, very quickly. For us, fundamentally, the most important thing is that we use a product that never saves your text and never uses your text for training. I'm a writer myself. I'm very what's the word?
Protective.
Protective, exactly. Protective over
generative.
my writing.
That's organic generative. That was organic. Sorry? Generative.
Yeah. You're my creative companion. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's the great thing about having somebody there to bounce ideas off and to ask these things. They always say that, like, when you have a community of creative people around you, you become much more creative, right? And that's why you get these hubs, like why Silicon Valley existed, right? In the first place, it was because all of these people were there working on things, talking to each other all the time, and they were sparking more and more ideas. But now we can have that in our own homes. which is great for writers.
It is amazing, and I can imagine how it's been for you, because I remember you talking about that. And in fact, I think I remember Hayley saying to me, Chris's real thing is adding to the process and allowing us the freedom of writing, and then that sort of that, you know, sort of, I don't know how to describe, but very dynamic levels of help that weren't really possible 5 years ago, and suddenly it is.
Yeah, I think that whole area of how can we use technology to enhance human creativity has always been something that I've been really, really passionate about. And in fact, like, I think it was 10, 11 years ago, I wanted to create this product called Inspiration Flow, where ideas would like flow down the screen that were all linked, and then you had to kind of like select them and you could reseed it, and it would sort of like semantically spread almost from your initial idea, sparking ideas. But 10 years ago was, you know, I gave up because it was impossible, or it was too technically challenging. It would have cost too much to develop. But now something like that we could easily integrate into ProWritingAid. So that's the exciting thing. And the difficult thing is to work out where to prioritise, where we can help people the most.
Now you're coming to London in June to our conference. You're talking this time. What are you going to talk about?
Well, hopefully. Baby depending.
Yes, you have an imminent baby.
Yes, my wife is due in June as well.
Yes. So would that be Hayley if it's not you? Okay.
Yes. She'll be a better substitute.
I'm sure you'll be. I saw you speak in Seville. Very good. So what will the talk be on? Will it be on editing, I'm assuming? Yes,
I think that exactly that. Like how generative AI is making the editing process much easier. And as I suggested, like you can get to a higher quality as well.
Yeah, excellent. Well, you can give a plug for the product now you're here, Chris. So better tell people where they can find it and how much it costs and how it works, how they integrate it and so on.
Sure, yeah, it's ProWritingAid.com. And we actually have a free package, so you can go on, you can try out all of the features. For a lot of people, that's enough. And then we have 2 paid plans. One is for people who don't require any of our advanced AI features. They just want help with speeding up the editing process. So it will identify all of those things like weak adverbs, passive voice, show don't tell, and then a generative AI version which will then help you to fix those much faster. So that's the things that we've been talking about today. So we have the AI enthusiast package and the AI skeptic package.
AI free guarantee. So did you? I don't think you mentioned the cost. If you do go from the free to paid? How much is that?
So the basic paid is 120 a year. We also have a lifetime option for those people that don't want to pay for a subscription. Okay.
Great. Well, Chris, thank you very much indeed for coming on again. We're looking forward to seeing you hopefully in June. Well, I say hopefully. I mean, it'd be a wonderful celebratory thing if you're not there, because you'll be bringing your baby. It's your second, I think you said, isn't it? Yes, your second. Yes. So it's not. You're an old hand at this by now, but an exciting time anyway.
Yeah, well, the first has given me lots of grey hairs.
Yes, that'll happen. You wait till they become teenagers, but they're lovely little darlings.
Small children, small problems.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Well, I'm just getting to the point where mine are leaving home, so I've been through all of that, but I wouldn't have missed it for anything. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely fantastic, Chris. I'm sure either you or Hayley will do us proud at the show in June, and I know that you'll be there anyway to talk to people. Well, whoever from PWA is there will be there, happy to answer more questions about this. But I've used PWA. I am an enthusiast and a fan of it, so we're very happy to have an association with you.
Great. Well, thanks, James.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
There you go, Chris Banks. As you can see, it's difficult to talk about almost anything without talking about AI at the moment. I don't want to make this the AI show. There's a lot more to us authors at the moment than that, and getting the writing done, which is something I need to constantly focus on. I am writing book 4. I stopped for a long time as there was a bit of disruption going on and my mind was elsewhere, but I'm back on writing. Started again last week. And I'm about 25,000 words in and really enjoying it. I don't really know where this book's going to go, but it's got a good start. And funnily enough, for a book, And whoever has this, it's got quite a good middle, which I'm looking forward to writing. It's just that end that I haven't quite got to yet, but I shall throw some ideas around and see what happens as I get through the middle where I am now. It's more spy espionage than I've written before. Although I have worked out something, I don't have a noir voice in me. So John le Carré, I love John le Carré, love those Frederick Forsyth, those spy novels I grew up on, and they're very noirish. But I don't really have that. I have a much more slightly sing-song way of writing, which is just my main character has to be slightly optimistic rather than downbeat. But that's just me, and I think everybody's a bit different, aren't they? But that's how I write, and my readers so far have enjoyed the books, according to the feedback, so I'm going to stick with that. Okay, that's it for this episode. Thank you very much to Chris Banks for being my guest. Don't forget you can pick up your tickets for the Self-Publishing Show at learnselfpublishing.com/SPS live. We have a translations course coming out in April. We're going to talk more about that, and we'll have a webinar to go along with that. So Bella Andre will present to you some of the basics about how to get your translations right, and then if you want to give you an idea of what's in the course as well. So if you want to make a decision about purchasing that course, it's a huge area, money on the table, something you need to get right. Right, that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening. I'll be back, maybe not next week, but I will be back soon. Bye-bye.
Get show notes, the podcast archive, and free resources to boost your writing career at selfpublishingshow.com. Join our thriving Facebook group at selfpublishingshow.com/Facebook. Support the show at patreon.com/selfpublishing show. And join us next week for more help and inspiration so that you can make your mark as a successful indie author. Publishing is changing, so get your words into the world and join the revolution with the Self-Publishing Show.